Hello, I'm grade 5. Welcome back to a new video, and today we're talking social studies. That's right, folks, you heard me right. This will be the first social studies lesson that I post, and we're going to be summarizing lessons 5 and 7. We're going to be summarizing lessons 5 and 7 from Unit 3. Now, you know, when you look over here at the whiteboard behind me, you might be wondering, what is this mess behind me, right? What is this? Like, you might think to yourself, what is this, a basketball, or is it a coconut? Is it a watermelon? Well, guys, I'm here to answer your questions. I'm here to tell you to have no fear, right? I'm here to settle the debate once and for all. I'm here to put an end to all doubts as to what the nature of this strange drawing is. It's actually none other than our home planet, Earth. So I went ahead and drew the globe behind me on the whiteboard because lessons 5 and 7 will focus a lot on latitude and longitude lines, imaginary lines that circle all around our planet. Right? They stretch horizontally from left to right. They stretch vertically from top to down, right? Top down and bottom up. So I went ahead and drew the globe on the whiteboard so we can summarize the lesson together, okay, guys? Now, I'm excited for this one and I hope you enjoy the video. Let's start with the right side, the right section. Let's start with the lines of latitude. Let's start with the latitude lines. Now, first and foremost, the first main and probably the most important latitude line is called the equator. Now, the equator is at exactly 0 degrees, period. It's not at 0 degrees north and no. It's not at any degree. It's not at any degree south as no. It's exactly at 0 degrees, period. It cuts straight through the planet horizontally. Now, of course, it's an imaginary line. There are no real lines cutting the planet whatsoever. I hope not. So it's an imaginary line that geographers use to help in identifying locations and identifying different weather regions, different climate zones. Now we're going to get into all of this in a second, okay? Okay, guys, we're going to talk about all of this in a minute. So the first and most important latitude line is the equator, and it's at 0 degrees, and that's it. Not north and not south. Now, directly above the equator, you will see a special latitude line called the Tropic of Cancer, and this line is located at 23 degrees and a half north. 23 degrees and a half north. Now, under the equator, directly under it, there is another special latitude line called the Tropic of Capricorn. And you can find it at 23 degrees and a half south. So, S stands for south and N stands for north. So far we have looked at 3 main latitude lines. The equator, and then directly above it, the Tropic of Capricorn, and then directly underneath the equator, what did I just say? Equator, above it, the Tropic of Cancer. Okay, I messed up. So above the equator, we will have the Tropic of Cancer at 23 degrees and a half north N, and then under the equator at 23 degrees and a half south, we will have the Tropic of Capricorn. Okay, guys? So far we have looked at these 3 main latitude lines. But let's keep going, Our journey doesn't stop here, okay, guys? Our journey doesn't stop here. If we keep going up, we will arrive at 66 degrees and a half north. Now this will be the Arctic Circle. So this latitude line, remember, we're still talking about latitude lines. So this latitude line over here at 66.5 N north is called the Arctic Circle. Now, if we go all the way to the opposite side, to 66 degrees and a half south, we will find the Antarctic Circle. Now, this line is called the Antarctic Circle because it's found closer to Antarctica, right? Antarctica is down below at the South Pole or in the South Pole. So the latitude line, Antarctic Circle, is called the Antarctic Circle because it's closer to Antarctica. So these are the main, how many lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the main 5, or these are the 5 main latitude lines that you guys are going to be responsible for. Now, of course, N stands for north, S for south. Now, I'm going to teach you a trick to remember the difference between Capricorn, and Cancer. Now, because in the exam they might ask you, they might give you a globe and they might give you blanks. So you need to put the name of the correct latitude line in the right place. So let's say you are solving your exam and you need to write the name of this line over here, but for some reason you can't really remember if this is the Tropic of Capricorn or Cancer, right? Sometimes they can be confusing. Even I just messed up between them right now, over here, live on camera, right? So it can be a bit confusing. So how can you remember the difference between the two, between Capricorn and Cancer? I will teach you how. Imagine you are stuck in Antarctica. So all the way over here, all the way down below at the South Pole, you are stuck in Antarctica, in the freezing continent, all the way down below. I even have to tilt the planet or the globe to my side so you can see it. So imagine you are stuck all the way down here in the coldest continent on Earth. And there's no one with you. You have no one with you and you have nothing with you. All you have with you is an endless supply, an never-ending supply, an infinite supply of what? Of corn. Now, who doesn't like some cheesy, salted, caramelized popcorn, right? So the good news is, even though you're stuck in the coldest and harshest continent on Earth with no one and nothing, but you still have a limitless supply of corn, right, guys? So you're going to be surviving on corn. Now, guess what? The Tropic of Capricorn is right next to, or it's close to, Antarctica. The Tropic of Capricorn is close to Antarctica. Now, why is Antarctica special? Because you're stuck on it with an endless supply of corn. And the Tropic of Capricorn is close to Antarctica. So if you are doing your exam and you need to fill in this line over here, it's empty and you need to write the name of the correct latitude line, but you can't remember if it's Cancer or Capricorn. Just remember, is it close to Antarctica? Yes. Are you stuck in Antarctica? Yes. Do you have an endless supply of corn to help you survive in Antarctica? Yes. This means that the line over here down below at 66.5 south is the Tropic of Capricorn. Now, I hope this helped you out. Okay. Speaking of latitude lines, they also have another name. They can be called parallels. Latitude lines can be called parallels. Now, this is because these latitude lines, we have the equator in red, and we have the brown latitude lines over and below the equator. So these lines of latitude, they never touch, they never meet, they never intersect. They always flow, they always travel or move away from each other. They're always separate from each other. They never touch, they never meet. So that's why sometimes you can also call them parallels. So if you see the word parallels in your exam, don't freak out, don't lose your minds, don't go crazy. Parallels is another name for lines of latitude. Now, here's another trick that some students like to use to remember the difference between latitude lines or longitude lines, lines of longitude. And that is latitude lines. Sometimes some students like to use the word flat or flatitudes, right? Flatitude, from the word flat. I'm gonna go ahead and write it on the whiteboard now. So the word flatitude, right, from the word flat, helps some students to remember that latitude lines are as flat as a pancake. They're flat, they stretch horizontally around the planet, they hug our planet from the side horizontally, and they're flat, right? So flatitudes, latitudes. Remember, they're also called parallels. Remember, the latitude line, Tropic of Capricorn, is found down below, closer to Antarctica. Why? Because you're stuck in Antarctica eating corn and watching my videos. Okay. Now, let's continue. Let's talk about lines of longitude. So we have latitude lines and we have lines of longitude. Now, the main longitude line, just like with the main latitude line, just like how the main latitude line is called the equator, we have one main or one most important longitude line or line of longitude, and it's called the prime meridian. Now, the prime meridian is the main line of longitude. Okay, guys, I wrote the word longitude over here. So the prime meridian is the main line of longitude. Now, since we are talking longitude, it's important to mention that these lines go from top to down, right, or bottom up, and they circle around the planet vertically. So vertically means from top to down. And the difference between latitudes or parallels, the difference between latitudes and longitudes is that the longitudes actually meet or intersect. If you look at the gray lines on the whiteboard behind me, the thin gray lines, so we have this line over here, and then we have another line over here, another longitude line, and then another line right over here, and then another gray line. Now you notice that these gray longitude lines, they actually meet, they intersect at either the South Pole or they meet at the North Pole. So this is the main difference between lines of longitude and latitude. Latitude lines are parallels, they never touch, they never meet. But longitude lines, they actually meet at the South Pole or at the North Pole. And speaking of the South Pole and the North Pole, it's important to mention that the South Pole is at 90 degrees north. And of course, the South Pole is its complete opposite at 90 degrees south. So, there's a lot to cover. We talked about latitudes. We talked about lines of longitude. Now, the main longitude line is the prime meridian. The main latitude line is the equator. Now, let's talk about climate zones or weather zones, weather regions. Now, for the weather regions, we have to go back to the lines of latitude, to the flatitudes, to the parallels. Because between every two lines of latitude, between every two lines, you will enter a new weather zone or a new climate zone. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Between 23 degrees north, right, and between 23 degrees and a half south, so between 23 and a half north and 23 and a half south, we will have a special climate zone called the tropical or torrid zone. Tropical or torrid, same meaning, different names, but same meaning. So between 23.5 N north and between 23.5 S south, we have the tropical or the torrid zone. And the weather in this zone is usually characterized by heavy rainfall throughout the entire year. Heavy rainfall throughout the entire year. So think rainforests, right? Think, humidity, moisture, wet air, heavy rainfall, rainforests, right? And these types of regions are usually rich in fruit like bananas and pineapple. Now this is probably the worst. This is probably the worst pineapple ever drawn in the history of mankind. But what can I do, guys? What can I do? I'm not an artist. I am but a mere humble YouTuber. Okay. So you will find fruits like bananas and pineapple in tropical or torrid zones. Now these regions are characterized by hot weather or warm weather and heavy rainfall throughout the entire year. And this zone exists, or it's found between 23.5 degrees north and between 23.5 degrees south. So between Cancer, so it's found between Cancer and between Capricorn. Okay, now let's talk about another climate zone. Let's keep going up in the lines of latitude. Let's keep going up. If we go up to between 23.5 degrees north and 65.5 degrees north. So between Cancer and between the Antarctic Circle, between Cancer and between the Arctic Circle, between Cancer and between the Arctic Circle, we will enter a new climate zone, right? And it has a name. North Temperate Zone. North Temperate Zone. So the North Temperate Zone is found between 23.5 degrees north, Tropic of Cancer, and between 66.5 degrees north, Antarctic Circle. So it's found between these two lines. It's found between these two lines. Now, how is the weather like in the North Temperate Zone? Well, it has, this weather is characterized by warm and hot summers, cool and cold winters, cool or cold winters, and these regions experience medium or moderate rainfall. Not heavy rainfall like in the tropical or torrid zone, but medium amounts of rain. So this is the North Temperate Zone. Now if we go all the way to the opposite side, you will find the twin sister for the North Temperate Zone, and that is the South Temperate Zone. Now the South Temperate Zone is located similar to the North Temperate Zone. It's also located between 23 degrees and a half and 66 degrees and a half. But of course, south, not north, because we're not up, it's south, S. So the South Temperate Zone is located between 23.5 degrees south, Capricorn, and the Antarctic Circle, 66 degrees and a half south. Now, how's the weather like? Again, it's the twin sister for the North Temperate Zone, right? So it will have the same weather characteristics. Warm and hot summers, cool and cold winters, and it will experience moderate rainfall, right? Now let's keep going. Let's go further and further up. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens if we keep climbing up and up the globe. Now, of course, the weather is going to get colder and colder. And that's when we enter the North Frigid Zone. Now, it's called frigid. It's called frigid. Let me underline the word. It's called frigid from the word fridge, right? From the refrigerator. It's freezing. It's cold. It's usually almost always. What did I just say? What kinds of words are these? It's almost always, right? Let's remove usually. Did I just use 3 adverbs in a row? Is this even possible? Is this even doable in English? Anyway, it's usually, forget about usually. It's almost always, right? It's almost always covered in snow. And it's going to be cold all year round, right? It's going to be cold for the entire year and covered in snow, right? From the word frigid, from fridge or refrigerator. So if you are doing your exam, you can't remember how is the weather like in the frigid zone, just remember the word fridge, okay, guys? Where you store, where you store all the good stuff, ice cream, ice cubes. What else do you store in the fridge? Whatever you store. Now, the twin sister for the North Frigid Zone, obviously, is the South South frigid zone. Now the south frigid zone is the twin sister to the north frigid zone, and it's found at 90 degrees S, 90 degrees south. Of course, we have to mention that the north frigid zone is at 90 degrees north, or N. Okay, now the south frigid zone has the same weather characteristics as the north frigid zone because they are twin sisters after all. And it's going to be freezing, it's going to be cold the entire year, and it's going to be mostly covered in snow, okay guys? Now why are these regions cold and covered in snow and freezing, right? It's because they receive less sunlight. Look. Less sunlight. Less sunlight. That's why these regions on Earth are usually colder than other places. They receive less sunlight. Let's review. We talked about latitudes, longitudes. We mentioned the equator. We mentioned the prime meridian. We talked about the climate zones. We have five main important, main and important. Come on, Rami, what's wrong? Why do you keep saying the same word but in different versions? We have 5 important climate zones, torrid or tropical, right? It's between 23.5 north and between 23.5 south. And then we have the north and south temperate zones. Now they have the same weather characteristics, but the north temperate zone is between 23.5 N and 66.5 N. But the south temperate zone is between 23.5 S and 66.5 S as for south. And the temperate zones have, cool and cold winters, warm or hot summers, and they experience medium rainfall. And finally, the last 2 climate zones are the north and south rigid zones, which are freezing the entire year. So we covered the 5 main climate zones. Now let's talk about let's talk about 2 more ideas from lessons 5 and 7, and we'll be done. Now let's talk about the word hemisphere. Hemisphere. Let me underline. Hemisphere. Hemisphere. Now hemisphere, let's divide the word into 2 parts. The word hemi means half. Okay guys? And sphere means circle. So hemisphere means half a circle, right? 1 plus 1. Hemisphere, half circle. Half circle. Now you can divide Earth, you can divide our globe, poor globe. How much more dividing and categorizing and cutting can it handle, right? We keep on dividing, and good old Mother Earth keeps on providing. Poor globe. But anyways, we can divide the globe, or planet Earth, into 4 hemispheres, right? Upper half, bottom half, where's right? Now, to your perspective, or from your perspective, right should be this way. Right half and left half. Now, of course, we don't call them upper half and lower half. We use more technical terms. We use more geographical terms. We use more scientific terms because we are a sophisticated bunch and we like to use big fancy words. So, the top half is called northern hemisphere. Of course, north means up, hemisphere means half circle. Northern hemisphere is the top half of the globe. Now, to its opposite, we have the southern hemisphere. Okay. Now, if we move over to the right side, which from your perspective is to this side, we will have the eastern hemisphere. So the eastern hemisphere is the right half of the globe, the right circle, or the right half circle of the globe, right? And to its opposite, its twin brother is the western hemisphere. Western hemisphere. So these are the 4 main hemispheres that you should be responsible for: northern, southern, Eastern, Western, I hope I got this right. Eastern, Western hemispheres. Hemisphere means half a circle. So we talked about latitudes, longitudes, equators, meridians, prime meridians, hemispheres. I need to make an honorable mention. I need to give a shout out. I need to give a shout out to one more longitude line of longitude. I wasn't able to write it on the whiteboard because there's no more space left, but I will give it a shout out. I will give it an honorable mention. And this line is called, let me reveal its name. I'm going to reveal its name. Meridian 180. Meridian 180 degrees. Now, meridian 180, in order to understand meridian 180, we have to look back again at the prime meridian. Now, the prime meridian is at 0 degrees. It's at 0 degrees longitude. It runs straight from top to down, right, in the middle of the planet. So this is the prime meridian. This is the most unstraight line ever in existence. But this is the prime meridian. It's at 0 degrees longitude. Now the meridian 180. Okay, guys, meridian 180, the line that I'm telling you about, which I'm going to explain, the line that I'm explaining right now, the new line, is directly behind the prime meridian. Now I cannot show you what's behind the prime meridian on the whiteboard because it's a 2D drawing, but I will try to demonstrate the location of the meridian 180 on the globe because I can actually rotate it. It's a 3D object in my hands, I can actually rotate it. So imagine right now you are looking at the prime meridian, which goes from top to down, prime meridian, 0 degrees longitude. If I turn the planet halfway around or fully around, let me turn the planet. So we started here. Let me turn the planet fully around. But if it's a full circle, I will end up right back where I started. Halfway around. I should really review this before I begin recording. Anyway, if I turn the planet halfway around, I will arrive at meridian 180, which is exactly behind the prime meridian on planet Earth. So if the prime meridian is right in front of you at 0 degrees longitude, directly behind it, you will find meridian 180. I couldn't draw it on the whiteboard for two reasons. First, I don't have any more space. This is already messy as it is. And second, I cannot rotate the globe on the whiteboard. It's a 2D drawing after all. So, but I hope you guys get the picture. So the meridian 180 will be exactly behind the prime meridian. The prime meridian is at 0 degrees, period. The meridian 180 is also at 180 degrees, period. Neither east nor west. Meridian 180 is at 180 degrees longitude, period. I have to stop, I have to pause for dramatic effect. Okay guys, that's it for this social studies video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. Now of course, if you want, you can watch the video before your exam. It will help you a lot. I tried my best to review with you guys lessons 5 and 7. So that's it for this one. Now when I say my goodbyes, when I bid my farewells, I'm going to step away from the camera just so you can have a few extra seconds where my face isn't blocking your view for the whiteboard, so you can take a screenshot, because this is basically a full summary for lessons 5 and 7. And so I'm gonna take my big head away from the camera as soon as I finish talking. I promise, I know I talk a lot, but that's why I'm recording, that's why I'm starting my YouTube channel, so I can freely talk by myself. And in case you're interested, you can, watch the video or pay a visit to the channel if you're interested. But most people, if I'm being honest with you, most people aren't interested. But if you're here, thank you so much, I appreciate it. So I'm going to remove my big head from the camera away in 1 second, I promise. This is a complete revision, hopefully, for lessons 5 and 7. It's not complete, but it's, 90% complete. Of course, in class we will talk more about more information. But yeah, that's it. Now when I step away, I'm going to leave the camera on the whiteboard for a few seconds. Maybe you want to take a screenshot. It will help you a lot when you study. That's it, and I will see you in the next one.